Marianne Bachmeier's world shattered when her 7-year-old daughter, Anna, was brutally taken from her. She had been kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by a man with a history of predatory behavior. While most parents rely on the justice system, Marianne took matters into her own hands. But she wasn't alone. Here are 10 parents who got the ultimate revenge on their child's predator. 1. Sarah Sands. On November 28, 2014, 32-year-old Sarah Sands made headlines when she stabbed her neighbor, Michael Pleasted, 8 times in his East London flat. Many wondered what could push a mother to such an act. Pleasted had a dark past with 24 convictions over 3 decades, including sexually abusing young boys. Despite serving prison time, he managed to blend back into the community, even running a local shop and gaining trust. Sarah saw no reason to doubt him until she discovered he'd been accused of molesting 2 boys, including her son, and was awaiting trial. When Sarah confronted Pleasted, he showed no remorse, dismissing the accusations and calling the boys liars. In a moment of lost control, she stabbed him. Sarah was convicted of manslaughter, but her sentence was increased to 7.5 years on appeal. She was released in 2018 and now campaigns against sexual offenders changing their names. Number 2. Andrzej Bamberski. On July 10, 1982, 14-year-old Kalinka Bamberski was found dead at her stepfather, Dieter Krombach's home in Lindau, Germany. Her body showed disturbing signs, needle marks, injuries to her private areas, and a mysterious white substance that was never tested. Strangely, her reproductive organs were removed during the autopsy. Despite this, the case was quickly closed, with Krombach, a respected doctor, only questioned once. Kalinka's father, Andrzej Bamberski, was devastated and convinced his daughter had been assaulted and murdered. Determined to seek justice, he launched a campaign against Krombach, revealing his dark past, including the suspicious death of his first wife and a conviction for drugging and assaulting a female patient. After years of legal failures, Andrzej planned Krombach's kidnapping in 2009 and delivered him to French authorities. In 2011, Krombach was convicted of Kalinka's murder, but Andrzej received a 1-year suspended sentence for the abduction. Number 3. Ellie Nessler. On April 2, 1993, Ellie Nessler walked into the Jamestown Justice Court with a heavy heart and a loaded gun. Her target was Daniel Merck Driver, a Christian camp employee standing for trial for sexually abusing 5 boys, including Ellie's son, William. As Driver sat in the courtroom, Ellie raised her weapon and fired multiple rounds into his head and neck, ending his life. Years earlier, Driver had pleaded guilty to molesting minors in the San Jose area. However, instead of serving time behind bars, he was handed probation after receiving a flood of character references from members of his church. For Ellie, this was an unforgivable injustice, especially when the possibility of her traumatized son having to testify against his abuser became a harsh reality. Ellie was ultimately convicted of voluntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, her conviction was later overturned due to juror misconduct, and she was released after serving just 3 years. Number 4. Kenneth Faulkner. In 2015, Kenneth Faulkner from Maury County, Tennessee, sensed something was wrong with his daughters. Trusting his instincts, he contacted the Columbia Police Department, leading to the discovery that a man named Williams, whom the girls saw as a relative through marriage, had been abusing them. In March 2015, Williams was indicted on 2 counts of solicitation of a minor. Despite the serious charges, his bail was set at just $2,000, and he walked free the same day. Faulkner was devastated when Williams later pleaded guilty, yet faced no jail time. Overcome with anger, Faulkner confronted Williams, attacking him, pushing him down the stairs, and sending him to the hospital. Despite Williams' actions, he never went to jail. Instead, Faulkner was arrested for aggravated assault. While a judge acknowledged Williams hadn't escaped unscathed, he also noted that Williams hadn't been charged with physically touching the girls. Number 5. Gary Plausch. On March 16, 1984, Gary Plausch waited at the Baton Rouge airport, consumed by rage. Doucette had kidnapped his 11-year-old son, Jody, On February 9, 1984, taking him from Louisiana to California, he altered their appearances, staying in a motel near Disneyland, where he assaulted Jody. Miraculously, Jody managed to call home, leading police to rescue him and arrest Doucette. Desperate for justice, Gary learned of Doucette's return flight. He disguised himself and went to the airport, and as Doucette arrived under police escort, he pulled out a hidden gun and fatally shot him. The shooting was captured on camera and shocked the nation. Gary was charged with second-degree murder, but accepted a plea deal, pleading no contest to manslaughter. He received a suspended 7-year sentence and 5 years of probation and completed 300 hours of community service. Number 6. Jason Browning. On July 18, 2014, in Daytona Beach, Florida, Jason Browning came home to a horrifying scene. He found 18-year-old Raymond Frolander, a family acquaintance, standing in his apartment with his pants slipped to his ankles. Browning realized he'd walked in on an assault. Overcome with rage, Browning attacked Frolander and left him unconscious. Photos of Frolander's bruised face made headlines, but despite his fury, Browning didn't kill him. Browning later admitted he considered ending Frolander's life. He grabbed a butcher's knife and stood over the unconscious man, ready to strike. However, his young son's presence pulled him back from the edge. On April 2, 2015, Frolander was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Number 7. Maria del Carmen Garcia. On July 13, 2005, in Vinar, Spain, Maria del Carmen Garcia was waiting for a bus when she encountered the man who had assaulted her daughter. He cruelly asked, "How's your daughter?" Overwhelmed by rage, Maria made a life-changing decision. Back in 1998, Maria's daughter, Veronica, was attacked by their neighbor, Antonio Cos, who dragged her into a forest and assaulted her. Though sentenced to 9 years, Antonio was released on temporary release just 2 years later, and that's when he decided to mock Maria. That fateful day, Maria bought a bottle of gasoline and confronted Antonio in a bar. Despite attempts to stop her, she doused him with gasoline and set him on fire. Antonio died a week later from his injuries. In 2010, Maria was sentenced to 9.5 years in prison. Number 8. Barry Gilton and Lupe Masado. In July 2012, Barry Gilton and Lupe Masado learned their daughter, Letitia, was involved with a dangerous pimp, Calvin Sneed, who abused her. Despite their efforts to bring her back to San Francisco, Letitia remained under Sneed's control. Barry, who had grown up near the Central Diviso Players Gang but avoided crime, turned to his cousin, Antonio Gilton, and friend, Alfonso Williams, both CDP affiliates, for help. On June 4, 2012, as Sneed arrived to pick up Letitia, an SUV pulled up and he was shot and killed. Barry and Lupe were charged with Sneed's murder. Before their trial, they were also indicted for federal racketeering laws, which meant spending years in prison before trial. Though the racketeering charges were eventually dropped, Barry and Lupe were still found guilty of being accessories to murder. Number 9. Eduardo Gallo. In July 2000, Eduardo Gallo's world shattered when his 25-year-old daughter, Paula, was kidnapped from their home in Tetlan, Mexico. Desperate to save her, Eduardo paid a $188,500 ransom, but tragically, Paula's body was found just a week later. She had been shot in the back and neck, leaving Eduardo heartbroken and haunted by her final moments. Although authorities arrested 3 suspects, the gunman remained at large. Eduardo shut down his consulting firm and turned into a relentless investigator, determined to find his daughter's killer. He followed leads, analyzed phone records, and discovered that nearly 90% of kidnappings in Mexico went unreported due to fear of retaliation. His persistence led to a breakthrough. By tracing a payphone used by the kidnappers, police captured 28-year-old Francisco Zamora Arano, who confessed to the crime, bringing some closure to Eduardo's unimaginable loss. Number 10. Marianne Bachmeier. On March 6, 1981, Marianne Bachmeier entered a packed West German courtroom carrying a concealed Beretta 70. Her target was Klaus Grabowski, who was on trial for murdering her 7-year-old daughter, Anna. When she saw an opportunity, Marianne shot Grabowski, killing him instantly. The whole incident started when Anna skipped school after an argument with her mother. She fell into the clutches of Grabowski, a butcher with a history of child molestation. He kept Anna in his home for hours before strangling her. While Grabowski admitted to the killing, he claimed Anna had threatened to accuse him of abuse if he didn't give her money. During her trial, Marianne shared that she had a dream of shooting Grabowski. She was convicted of premeditated manslaughter in 1983 and sentenced to 6 years, but served only 3. Marianne died of cancer in 1996, aged 46. And that was 10 parents who got the ultimate revenge on their child's predator. Do you think their actions were right? Do you think their convictions were fair? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoy videos like this and want to see more like it, like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.